Welcome, Age of Vintage Society. Monica Vitti, a well-known diva of Italian cinema, whose acting and directorial expertise I greatly admire, and it succinctly provides a good explanation of the roles that women are supposed to play in Italian cinema. Women's presence in Italian cinema is indeed paramount, as most Italian films seem to weave their narrative plots around beautiful women and their love relationships with men. Why Monica Vitti considered herself an ugly creature. Make sure to watch the video until the end and leave your thoughts in the comments. If you are new here, join our wonderful community by subscribing to the Age of Vintage channel. In the early 1960s, director Michelangelo Antonioni made 4 revolutionary movies with actress Monica Vitti. All of them now have cult status on the art house circuit. Much has been written about Antonioni's films, but almost all of it takes the form of reviews and critical appraisals. It casts no light on his relationship with Monica Vitti. What's clear, nevertheless, is that for him she was both muse and lover. In the history of cinema, there have been several notable collaborations between a director and an actress over a series of films. Think of D.W. Griffith and Lillian Gish back in the silent era, Josef von Sternberg and Marlene Dietrich in the early 1930s, Jean-Luc Godard and Anna Karina at the time of the French New Wave. Without going into theories of the male gaze, it may be said that in these cases the woman is a figure of beauty, an object of contemplation for the man behind the camera. This doesn't mean that she is merely an object, a passive recipient of the camera's attention. Gish was a great actress, and though neither Dietrich nor Karina could claim as much, all three are, not least for their beauty, commanding screen presences, figures of special power. They have a hold on the beholder, whether director or spectator. The collaboration between Michelangelo Antonioni and Monica Vitti is of a rather different kind. Not that Vitti isn't beautiful, but her presence is less commanding than that of Gish, Dietrich or Karina, her beauty more tentative, which is in keeping with the unsettled, questioning beauty of Antonioni's visual style, and in her films with him, Vitti is as much beholding as beheld, identified with the director whose gaze she doubles. Other male directors have adopted the point of view of a female character, but none has made a woman his surrogate in the way that Antonioni has Monica Vitti. His tendency to filter our perceptions through the perspective of women was already manifest in such accomplished early works, but it reaches a culmination in his films with Vitti, which display a peculiar intimacy between director and actress. Cool, elegant beauty who began appearing in films in the mid-1950s playing characters far from her sprightly self, Vitti was cast in several stage plays directed by Michelangelo Antonioni in the later part of the decade, and gained international recognition for her performances in his films. With a presence as distant and forlorn as the landscape that figures so prominently in Antonioni's work, Vitti was perfectly suited to his singular vision, contributing memorably to the classic trilogy L'Avventura, La Notte and L'Eclisse, and to the neurotic study of angst and alienation, Red Desert. The outstanding Italian actress who was at the peak of her popularity in the 60s, Vitti became not only a muse but also a faithful companion of the master for many years. The acting of Monica Vitti was noted by many prestigious Italian and European movie awards. Well, she was a superbly versatile actress, equally adept at playing the angst-ridden roles in which Antonioni cast her, and turning her hand to comedy. Let's take a look at her through the lens of her career. Maria Luisa Ceccarelli was born on 3rd of November 1931 in Rome. Her father was Angelo Ceccarelli, her mother's name was Adele Vittilia. The actress will make a start from her mother's surname when choosing a creative pseudonym. She has an unhappy childhood, her attention-seeking belittled by her family, her relationship with her mother strained. As the only daughter, she feels she's treated very differently from her brothers. I had very strict parents. My 2 brothers were power and freedom. I was powerlessness and seclusion. The girl's childhood wasn't cloudless. The family was living in poverty, and she had to wear the clothes of her elder brothers. Little fragile Monica wore broad trousers on the suspenders, and big boyish boots with the layer of cotton wool inside. She didn't like herself. Moreover, the girl had a big nose and mouth. The girl considered herself to be an awful, ugly creature. A poor diffident child had only one thing to do, to dream. And Monica was dreaming about the day when she will be able to have a transformation, to put on a beautiful dress and shoes, and that's the most important, to look gorgeous not only in her own eyes, but for others as well. These dreams brought Monica to the magic world of theatre. Her experiences as a child will mark her for life. She will never want to have a family, and will be wary of marriage. The future actress performed her first roles in the amateur plays. She makes her stage debut at age 14, and acting becomes a form of escapism. When at 14 and a half I had almost decided I had had enough of life. I realised that I could act, carry on just pretending to be someone else, and making people laugh as much as possible on the stage and screen. In life it was much more difficult. Her debut play was Enemy by Nicodemi, where she appeared as a character of the 40-year-old woman. After school, the young Italian entered the National Academy of Dramatic Arts in Rome, from which she graduated in 1953. When she became a certified actress, Vitti, who had already taken herself this laconic pseudonym, began to work at the stage of the theatres of the capital. When Monica is 18 years old, her family, brothers as well as parents, emigrates to the US. Her early career is unremarkable. She tours Germany with an Italian acting troupe, and has a role in a stage production of Niccolò Machiavelli's La Mandragola in Rome. For a few years she's a struggling actress, combining theatre work with appearances in a miscellany of made-for-TV movies and series. The name of the actress even didn't appear in the titles. During this period, to be exact, in 1956, the young actress got acquainted with the director Michelangelo Antonioni. This meeting became a harbinger of her star career in cinematography. She was working as a dubbing artist for Il Grido when she met Antonioni, with whom she would go on to shoot 4 films in the early 1960s. One day Monica is unaware that he has come in and is standing behind her, watching her. After a while he says, "You have a beautiful neck. You could be in the movies." Turning point in her life. His background and situation are very different from hers. He has fond memories of his childhood, and is on his way to establishing himself as a film director, having started out writing screenplays and making documentaries. He is intellectual, aloof, meticulous. Both Michelangelo and Monica are passionate about their work and fall for each other, professionally and personally. In Antonioni's studies of alienation of man in the modern world, loneliness and lack of relationships, she became an icon of aloofness through her reduced and concentrated style of acting. L'Avventura was Antonioni's and Vitti's first film together. She was a little-known actress. He had directed some remarkable films, but this was the one that made him famous, and it made her famous along with him. Their names became inseparable as their collaboration continued. Greatly admired by some, quite disliked by others, Antonioni gained renown as a maker of films short on action and long on the spaces in between. But even if nothing much is happening, those empty spaces, those intervals of an uncertain modernity, are fraught with intimations of something that has happened or is about to happen, narrative paths that may be taken. And though Vitti inhabits those spaces tentatively, quizzically, in the way of someone who feels like a stranger in her own land, she brings a lively presence to that landscape of absence and a sense of narrative expectancy, a search for connection in the midst of alienation. Troubled inquiries into the shifting appearances of our reality, Antonioni's films are modernist mystery stories, and Vitti's characters are something like detective figures. This distinctive interrogative gaze of Antonioni's camera is paralleled by the gaze of Vitti's characters, Claudia in L'Avventura, Vittoria in L'Eclisse, Giuliana in Red Desert. Vitti may be described as an actress of the gaze, both the gaze she turns on the world and the gaze the world turns on her. Every performer, of course, is there to be looked at, on display before the audience. But just as Antonioni's films enact a special way of looking, so Vitti's special quality as a performer arises from the way she looks at things and the way she is looked at, and is aware of being looked at. from the interplay between her as the subject and as the object of the gaze. Just as Antonioni is, more than a director of dramatic scenes, a director of attention, so Vitti is a performer of attention, which she pays to her surroundings and receives from Antonioni's camera. After he had met Vitti, he had no more doubts about the leading character of his new project about which he was thinking at the time. The tandem of the actress and director managed to be successful, and in 1960 the first movie of the trilogy of Alienation, The Adventure, came out on the screens. This movie became a real breakthrough in Italian cinematography. Nobody wanted to take a chance on it, and on me, an unknown. The night that is shown at the 1960 Cannes International Film Festival turns out to be the inflection point for both their careers. Its screening provokes boos, whistles and catcalls. The audience was impressed by the talent of the director as well as by the skillful acting of the leading actress. For this role, Vitti received Golden Globe and Golden Grail Awards for Best Actress and was nominated for BAFTA Awards for Best Foreign Actress. Her photos appeared not only on the covers of Italian newspapers and magazines, but of European as well. In a society where bella figura is still an obsession and most people err on the side of formality, she is laid back, tall with unruly ash-blonde hair, loose, long black dress, no discernible makeup. She has a soft voice that you sense masks a resolute character. She is somehow sharp yet pillowy at the same time. The movies directed by Antonioni became the classics of the Italian cinematography. The master focused not only on the dialogues but also on the acting of feelings, and he was called the discoverer of the new language in cinematography, and Monica Vitti showed her great acting skills in this sensual acting. She had a stunning screen persona which managed to combine physical beauty and perfect comic timing. Her husky voice when speaking or singing was unmistakable, and her wide-eyed stare into a camera revealed an actress courageous enough to let us see her soul. Michelangelo Antonioni became the most important man in Monica Vitti's life. The love story of the director and his muse was interpreted by the journalists a dozen times. If on that memorable day the director hadn't started the conversation with the actress in the studio, their creative union wouldn't have existed. At first the director gave a compliment to the woman's voice. Monica had a unique timbre. It was quite low and a bit bratty, and also she had a slightly ironic manner of speaking, and then the director frankly told her, looking into her eyes, that he was looking for such a face for a long time. Monica burst out laughing, and Antonioni finally fell in love with her. Michel, the way his relatives called the director, became a teacher, a friend and a lover for the young woman. He helped her to love her appearance as she was embarrassed by her look. He shot her the way that it was just impossible not to fall in love with her, and she wanted to be desired and seductive for him. For the first time she began to have high heels and backless dresses in her wardrobe. Their passionate, beautiful novel lasted for nearly 10 years. Everyday life on the movie set, joint travels to the festivals, flowers and champagne in the mornings, crowdy evenings in the high society. They had all these ingredients in their saturated personal life. They seemed to have tied relations, and one could think that they couldn't break up. However, the lovable temper of the artist and jealous character of the passionate Italian interfered with their destiny. In the mid-60s, Antonioni was no more in love with his muse. He invited the English actress Vanessa Redgrave to play a role in his new movie Blow Up. Her cold and strict beauty enchanted the director. Monica was suffering from her personal tragedy for a long time, but over time she recovered from the past romance. In 1975 she met the director and scriptwriter Robert Russo, who became her official husband in 20 years. The actress doesn't have children. Vitti's leading men included Marcello Mastroianni, Giancarlo Giannini, Alain Delon and Vittorio Gassman. Apart from her long collaboration with Antonioni, she worked with directors such as Louis Buñuel, Ettore Squala and Mario Monicelli. She already had in her filmography more than 40 comedy movies when Michelangelo Antonioni offered cooperation to the Muse one more time 20 years later. In 1981 their last collaboration under the title The Mystery of Oberwald was released. Ethereal, cool, enchantingly beautiful, by the beginning of the 1960s, after 4 years and just as many films with her partner of the time, the director Michelangelo Antonioni, Monica Vitti had established herself as an outstanding actress and became the epitome of the opaque, silent diva. However, the Italian movie star was talented not only in the dramatic acting skills. She demonstrated her comedy image to the audience sometime later. Since 1965, after the breakup with Antonioni, the actress appeared on the screen mainly in this genre. Monica could manage to play any kind of roles, whether it was in the genre of a black comedy, a burlesque, a sitcom or farce. She played in over 50 films for cinema and television before retiring from acting, turning instead to teaching, writing and directing. Vitti made only 2 English-language films, Modesty Blaise, the 1966 James Bond spoof with Terence Stamp and Dirk Bogarde, and An Almost Perfect Affair with Keith Carradine. In 1989 the woman became a director and scriptwriter of the secret movie Scandal, and moreover she played the leading role in this picture. With this work, Vitti said goodbye to cinematography and returned to the theatre, where she began to teach and sometimes to appear on the television. In old age, Monica Vitti retired. During a long time, nothing was known about the destiny of the famous actress. Alzheimer's has removed her from the public gaze for the last 15 years. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you are new here, and if you want to support my work, please visit my Patreon page. Now it is your turn. What do you think about the life and legacy of Monica Vitti? She passed seamlessly from being the muse of the intense Michelangelo Antonioni to become Italy's favourite comedienne in films.